Okay, very good. So let's get it started. Hey, everyone. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody around the world that has joined our webinar today. This is one of our webinars in Pharma. It's a series of webinars, and particularly it is about how to integrate webinars in Veeva and Salesforce Marketing Cloud journeys. On this, I'm Suman Satra. I'm an executive in R&D and marketing, and also I'm the head of the operations of ShowerThinking Canada. I'll be joined today by my esteemed colleague and industry veteran, Mr. Joaquin Paez, and I'll also be moderating the webinar today as well. So as for the agenda and what we have prepared for you today, we're going to have a very brief intro about the speakers as well as ShowerThinking, and then we will just dive right away into how webinars are shaping the evolving digital marketing strategy in pharma and healthcare. After that, we'll just talk about a already implemented case that has been very successfully deployed in the industry. And then at the end, we're going to have a very healthy Q&A session so that we can make it very interactive with our audience, and then we'll make sure that we'll touch on all the details and questions that you have. The way that we have set up the flow of the webinar today is that we like to kind of go through the material first, and then I would appreciate if you'll hold on to your questions towards the end, and you can ask your questions either by raising your hands and then be interactive, or you can just type it in the chat window, and I'll be more than happy to pose your question to our speaker today, and we'll definitely make sure that you get the answer on this. So a couple of information about our piece of information about our webinar today. The presentation is based on Veeva and Salesforce Marketing Cloud platform. As you're aware, that these are amongst the leading platforms that are used in the pharma and healthcare industry on that. And the implementation part of the presentation today that you will see, or some parts of it, will be using GotoWebinars as the webinar platform. But the same concept and methodology have been implemented and applied to any successful platform that are available to everyone, like Zoom, Microsoft, or Cisco. So they're not kind of unique to GoToWebinars on this. In just also a quick intro to give you about ShowerThinking, as actually why we feel so privileged to be here to be able to give you this material today. Is ShowerThinking is a marketing consulting firm, and we provide complete portfolio of services in marketing and technology needs in Salesforce and Veeva platforms particularly. What is very kind of unique and is differentiating about ShowerThinking is the strong marketing knowledge that we have in healthcare and pharma, which is combined with a team of experts and architects that we have in Salesforce and Veeva on that. We have a great proven track record of servicing tier 1 and large pharma companies internationally, and overall, and in average, we launch about maybe 50 digital campaigns every month globally related to this. It's also worth mentioning that ShowerThinking has been awarded the Top 10 Salesforce Solution Provider Award in Europe. On this. So also a brief intro about our presenter today. Mr. Joaquin Paez is the CEO and founder of the ShowerThinking. He's a certified Salesforce and Datorama solution architect, and is holding more than 10 certificates in Salesforce. Also, Joaquin is a Salesforce professor and teacher in various Salesforce training and digital marketing courses in various universities. He's holding his graduate degree from MIT in Big Data and Data Analytics, and he has vast and deep knowledge in implementing marketing and technology for pharma. And obviously, being a professor, he's also holding a director chair at ESSEC University related to Salesforce digital marketing. On that. And without further ado, I'd like to pass it to Joaquin to dive into the material today. Joaquin, please take it away.
So thank you, Saman, and hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be with you today. My name is Joaquin Paez, and I will be the presenter for this part of the webinar. So let's go straight into the presentation. Webinars have always been an incredible opportunity for pharma companies to educate and engage with your audience. A webinar could have different objectives in your marketing plan, like presenting your products, engaging with your audience, and many companies have discovered that they are an important source of new leads. They were already a cost-effective tactic for many organizations before the pandemic. Now they are essential and need to be integrated into your platform. But let me say my view about webinars and explain how you can advance a step further. Webinars have evolved. Our view about webinars could be slightly different from yours. For a long time, webinars has been performed as an isolated tactic where the whole experience between a healthcare professional with a brand is not considered. But now, we have the possibility to consider webinars as part of a bigger marketing automation picture. Webinars could be a precious touch point where you can enrich the knowledge and conversation with an HCP. Just think about the possibilities that brings different communication with attendees and speakers, polls, questions, chats, and any other social interaction. Webinars will not be a part of a journey, and this concept is key for me. A journey between a healthcare professional and your brand with the specific focus on improving the customer experience. But there are many challenges in pharma companies. Probably most of you in this meeting are familiar with these bullet points. The webinar tools that your company is using do not have the possibility to integrate with marketing automation journeys. For example, you spend many resources with manual processes to track attendees, and it's also difficult to receive real-time updates in a campaign. Can you imagine how powerful it will be combining the interaction driven by your reps with your digital campaigns? In this presentation, we will explain how to combine cross-channel strategies. If you consider the webinar as part of a marketing automation tactic, then you can obtain a different view of the process. It starts with the segmentation of your audience, and it ends synchronizing data in Veeva, that is the source of truth for many pharma companies. You should be able to segment your audience based on factors like previous customer interactions, the call plan, or the barriers that the HCP could have with your brand. You should also be able to implement cross-channel. The journey can start with an approved email in Veeva, or an e-detailing, a marketing cloud email, or even a social media or advertising platform. The personalization is part of the journey, but you can also use the process to enrich with new customer data. You can start a scoring tactic and measuring how HCPs interact with your content. In summary, a webinar can be considered as part of a global journey, and any interaction point is an opportunity to improve the HCP's experience. Now, let's go into more technical details. Salesforce Marketing Cloud has been the platform of choice for many pharma companies regarding marketing automation. Based on our experience, most of them use a small fraction of its capabilities. Integrating webinars with Salesforce Marketing Cloud is a great opportunity to accelerate your digital transformation processes. I would like to share with you which are the best practices on deciding the best webinar tool for your company. As you know, there are a myriad of webinar tools in the market, and this decision is not easy in international pharma companies. From our experience, there are some key points that are not considered, but are fundamental if you are trying to improve the experience for your customers and create cross-channel journeys. For example, how are you going to manage new content coming from the webinar? Or do you need to update your existing content in Veeva? How are you going to identify HCPs in a webinar and connect them with a journey? Where are you going to store this information? How are you going to provide visibility to your reps? And probably the most important, how are you going to decide on which is the next best action for your reps to interact after the webinar? Our solution has been to create a seamless integration between Veeva, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and the webinar platform of your choice. Although this example today is based on GoToWebinar, other platforms like Zoom, Microsoft, Cisco, Big Market, and others are being used. This is not just a simple API integration, but this is a solution using best practices between the three main platforms for digital pharma. For example, with this solution, all consents, new and existing, are seamlessly integrated in the Veeva multi-channel consent object. You can introduce an audience into a cross-channel journey. Reps can trigger a webinar cross-channel journey and receive updates on their Veeva timeline about their physicians' activities. It even covers the one-click to register activity. When we split the functionalities of the application into the different webinar stages, you can find that in the invitation process, you can orchestrate a webinar using Journey Builder. For the registration process, you can even use cloud pages for a seamless experience and forget about ugly webinar platform landing pages. If we focus on the event, we can design interactions with the attendees with the objective to enrich additional data and improve customer knowledge. And last but not least, we can generate a scoring system based on the journey's different interactions. Now, let's see an example. This is a multinational pharma company focusing on GPs with existing marketing consent, but also generate new leads. Our design proposed to combine traditional channels in Veeva with webinar and marketing cloud channels, but most importantly, the ability to generate some business indicator about the performance of the campaign. We started working on the design of the webinar invitation and registration process, considering not only the integration of the three platforms mentioned so far, but also the inclusion of LinkedIn. The journey began with a segmentation based on Veeva's call plan. For this, we used the Salesforce reporting tool and later tagged it through a Veeva campaign. The reps triggered the journey, launching a Veeva approved email invitation for the webinar, a journey that continues in Salesforce Marketing Cloud with a second email based on the level of engagement of the approved email. If finally the GP does not interact with any of these two communications, Salesforce Marketing Cloud launches a warning task to the rep in Veeva. In parallel to this process, and through the segmentation of the Veeva campaign, we launched through Advertising Studio a series of promotional campaigns of the webinar on LinkedIn ads, using retargeting functionalities to reinforce the impact on the audience GPs and generating new leads through lookalike audience. In order to maximize the investment of ads, a suppression list was generated based on the people registering to the webinar. Finally, as you know, in pharma webinars, it's very important to make sure that the content can only be accessed by HCPs. We developed an approval process based on Veeva identifiers, in this case, one key from IQVIA. This solution not only provides an improvement at the level of data integration and orchestration of the cross-channel journey, it also allows to improve the user experience. Why create a registration form where we request data that we already have in Veeva? In this case study, we decided to create one-click registration process based on tagging the email links. And not only by tagging the email launched by Salesforce Marketing Cloud, but we also use deep linking in Veeva approved emails. On the other hand, we also improve CRO, conversion rate optimization, using native LinkedIn functionalities such as form. Surely, many of you have registered for this webinar using a single click in a LinkedIn form. If we focus on analytics, this solution integrates all user interactions with the Veeva timeline. In this example, you can see how this is displayed on the iPad of a rep. If you remember, one of the demands of our client was to be able to have an engagement indicator related to businesses. For this, we rely on one of the industry standards, the key educational messages. We tag the content of the webinars based on these key EMs, and thanks to the visualization metrics of the webinar platforms, we create a score based on the time spent in the webinar and the responses of the feedback survey. I'm sure that many of you are not happy with Salesforce Marketing Cloud Analytics solutions, and you have no way to create dashboard to follow a journey. In this case study, we focus on two parts: a data layer and data collection through personalized tagging in Google Tag Manager, and incorporating a business intelligence tool for marketing, such as Datorama, which not only integrates data from Veeva, but also from Salesforce Marketing Cloud, GoToWebinar, and also the campaigns from LinkedIn. I hope you enjoyed the webinar and find the information useful. I'm sending back the controls to Saman, and now let's go to the Q&A part.
Thank you very much, Joaquin. Really appreciate it. It's really exciting. As promised, we are trying to make the interaction actually mostly as a part of the Q&A based on the data that you have. So, I'd like to invite our audience to start asking their questions, either raise your hands or ask their questions. And Joaquin, I have actually I have a few questions coming into the list. One of the actually top ones that I was actually it was interesting is this. So, can you elaborate on the use of existing constants, and also if webinars can be inserted in a journey that is already in progress?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that this is a very important point. Indeed, I've been speaking with Saman to create just a webinar in January only regarding the consent. The consent, the ways we are dealing with consent in this webinar, we are having like two different sources. All the Veeva identifiers are being linked into Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So we already know who are the people that we are going to invite. And through a form, we can check which is the identifier. So this is as you see in the whole process, we are trying that not to request again any information that we already have. This is one part of the information. And other part of the contents, they are coming also from the webinar tool. They are called custom fields, and it's basically some fields that we can ask to the physicians in order to introduce additional info, in order that we can understand who exactly is there, who are there basically in this information. So to make just a quick summary, although I will need to explain a little bit more, about this functionality, is in order to synchronize the Veeva identifier between Veeva and Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and tag any send to the customers, in order that we don't need to request again. Also, you have seen in part of the journey that we are using deep linking, in order that the content that we are providing in our website, they don't need to log in or even register in order to access this content.
Very good. Thanks, Joaquin. Let me know if there are follow-up questions to that. I'll go through the list of questions that have come up. Another question, Joaquin, is that so our journeys do not include webinars right now. What are the first steps we need to take to integrate webinars?
I would suggest that in order to integrate webinars, and this is probably about the first part of the webinar, is to create a complete journey. I think that in these moments makes a lot of sense to decide which should be the interaction between a brand and an HCP, and where are the points where a webinar really provides some value to this HCP. So from my view, although it's true that there is a technical solution, and we are able in some companies that they say, okay, I'm already creating a lot of webinars. I need a quick solution, and we have this is because we developed this application and we are able to implement in 2 or 3 weeks. But I will suggest that having a second thought about the webinars, probably here in Pharma, we are used to carry on creating webinars as it was in the past. And part of this webinar is showing that we have different and more powerful functionalities in order to improve the whole experience.
Very good. Thank you, Joaquin. Let me go through the list of questions. Another question is what features, and I think we had a slide on this one, but I'll ask this. Maybe you can explain based on that slide. What features we should be looking for in adopting a good webinar platform on that? And maybe Joaquin, that you can explain this again if you go back to the slide that you had, because you had a nice slide explaining
sure,
this.
No problem. I think that they are at the beginning of the webinar. Let me see where they're. Yes, you can find it here. See, I expect that you can see my screen. As I did through the webinar, many IT teams or marketing teams, they are focusing on which are the webinar functionalities. And for me, these are more or less the six main features that you from the marketing side or the product side should be looking after. And obviously, just question yourself or your team, how are you going to create new content, in the case it's coming from a webinar, or how are you going to match your existing content? Some pharma companies have different level of content. For example, you could have an approved email content, but not an approval for sending a marketing cloud content. So you need to really decide how are you going to deal with all this content management. Also, a key feature for me is how are you going to identify the HCPs? So, of course, you can create any webinar in this moment, and you don't even need Salesforce Marketing Cloud. But where this marketing automation platform really shines is when you identify and then you can introduce this customer in a journey. Obviously, where do you store the information? The ability to create cross channels. We at ShowerThinking, we name cross channels when you create a journey. Part is from the reps and part is from the digital activities. And probably the most important is how are you going, if I will mention one of them, the most important for me, how are you going to provide the rep visibility? If they invite their physicians or their customers, they basically need to understand in which part of the journey are their HCPs, and which are the different actions that they are taking.
That's very good. Thank you, Joaquin. One more question here is, could you elaborate a little bit more about the one-click process that you talked about, and how it is differentiating from the existing webinar interactions?
Well, in the existing webinar interactions, many times you need to introduce again all your information. If you have here your information in Salesforce Marketing Cloud, you know which is your Veeva. You have a Veeva identifier, or whatever identifier you have in your system, you probably already know all this information. You just are requesting this HCP to confirm that he wants to register in this webinar. This is what we call a one-click registration. We are implementing this through Salesforce Marketing Cloud. We also have the possibility to implement this functionality through Veeva. And with social media networks, in this case, for example, for this same webinar that we are making in ShowerThinking, many of you, I think that 50 or 60% from the attendees today, they are registering using a LinkedIn form where you just need to click with a click of a button, you are registered to this webinar. So this is basically a process for trying to improve the user experience with our customers.
Okay, very good. Another question, Joaquin, is it's being asked, could you add website or app interactions to the journey? For example, data from GA and Firebase?
Sorry, the last part, the data from?
The data from GA.
From Google Analytics.
Yeah, and Firebase.
Yes, it's not detailed here, but let me see where is. I think that it's more. Data is not from Google Analytics. Google Analytics really is a dashboarding tool. Well, it's not only a dashboarding tool, but the part of the Google Suite that you will need to use is Google Tag Manager. So there are many different events that the HCPs are doing with interacting with your website that you could introduce here. For example, if they see a video, which is the percentage of the video that they can see, and based on this information, launch a journey. Okay, that this is probably what you are looking after. So yes, of course, with this integration we also integrate the website of the pharma company in order that any interactions, it probably is just to happen after the webinar where you leave a video. We want to understand if the HCPs wants to watch again this video. So this is the kind of journey after the webinar that we usually implement.
Okay, very good. Let me check with the attendee if he got his answer, Mikhail. Okay, very good, very good. Let me scan through the questions. So on this one, and now there's another question actually here, is that how early in the process I should be thinking about webinar integration, or how late in the journey I can integrate the webinars?
I think that you should think at the start of the process, because the whole journey, you need data, you need to acquire data in order to enrich your Veeva information. And before speaking, you just usually need to speak with the reps, with your product team, and many other people inside your company. So usually, I would suggest to just at the beginning, creating a seamless integration between all the platforms, and then go and play. So for me, at least, my view, I don't know if I'm getting exactly the question here, but for me, would be to create first the integration, and then create a process in order to launch all the different webinars or content that you need to launch during, for example, for next year. I see that there are many companies that have very important plans for launching a webinar. One of our customers and this is one of the additional customer cases that we will probably be creating during the next month, are focusing exclusively on creating webinars for 2021. So of course, there is a lot of interest. And one of the first steps, obviously, will be to creating this integration and have all these different features.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, we hit the 30 minutes mark right now, Joaquin. I know we had budgeted another 15 minutes just for overflows, but looks like that we have answered most of the questions that have come in. And I'll encourage our audience, please feel free to send us questions offline if you have anything. And obviously, we are going to be posting this as well. Let me scan through this one more time to see if we have any other questions that are remaining. And I don't know, Joaquin, if you see any other questions as well, but I don't see anything else on my side right now. With that in mind, I really like to thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and look out for the follow-on, more in-depth webinars as well. I'll pass it back to Joaquin for a couple final words as well on this.
No, just thank you, everyone, for this great attendance. And of course, some of the questions you made will need a little bit more of analysis and understanding your environment. So as Saman said, we are more than happy to be in contact with you during next week. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Joaquin, and looking forward to having you again on our webinars. Take care, everyone. That will conclude right now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.